We're recording.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the June 9th, 2021 Mercer Island Arts Council regular video meeting. The time is now 6:34. I'm Erin Vivian, Chair of the Arts Council. Tonight's Arts Council meeting is using video conferencing technology provided by Zoom. The video of this meeting is being broadcast live via Zoom and will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel later this week. City staff, liaisons to the Arts Council, and other panelists are also participating in tonight's meeting remotely. Other public audience members may be listening to the meeting by telephone or via the internet. Welcome to all, and thank you for joining us tonight. Okay, roll call. Board members, please ensure that your microphones are turned on for the roll call. Will staff, staff, please call the roll.
Erin Vivian.
Here.
Amy Barnes.
Here.
Anu Meha. Eric Gordon.
Here.
Suzanne Scone.
Here.
Galen Baden. Okay, that's everybody.
All right. Tonight's agenda will not include in-person public appearances. However, individuals can speak to the Arts Council on any item provided they've registered their request to speak with the city staff by 4 p.m. today. Staff will call on you by name or telephone number if it is your turn to speak. Staff, is there anyone who has signed up for appearances that wishes to address the board?
No appearances.
Okay. Staff report. We now welcome Sarah Bluvas, Economic Development Coordinator, to provide a staff update.
Okay, let me share my screen. Can you all see this? Perfect. Okay. So just a few quick items to update you all on this month. First, if you haven't seen it yet, there's a new mural up at the Boyd building in Town Center. Here are some pictures of it, some artists in action, as well as the finished product. It was created and painted by members of the MIHS Art Honor Society and Art Club. In collaboration with Ann Ritze from Myval, as well as Ginny Clark, who is one of the co-owners of Clark & Clark Artifacts and Art and Artifacts. And she's really been spearheading the effort to keep this mural fresh and rotating and really brightening up this corner of Town Center. One thing that Ginny has worked on with this piece in particular, she partnered with the landlord of the Boyd building to create bags and t-shirts that include the mural image, and they will be available soon. They plan on giving them away to young people on the island and then making them available also to adults for small donation, and those donations will go to support Northwest Harvest. So it's really exciting to see this collaboration between a local business or a couple local businesses, property owner, local artists, and students continue. You may have heard about this last week. There was a fire at the Aubrey Davis Park picnic shelter on June 1st. The fire department responded to a report of flames in the park, and they showed up and quickly extinguished a trash can fire. Unfortunately, the fire had spread to the covered picnic shelter that was in the area, and it caused enough damage that the structure is effectively lost. We did confirm that there's no damage to the artwork that's located in that area. So for once, this is a non-public art vandalism or damage update. But still unfortunate. PD and the fire marshal are still investigating. This fire may have been connected to some other fires in the area, as it appeared to be set deliberately. So I included the contact information for the detective who's following the case. If you have any information, I know some people kind of live around that area close to Aubrey Davis Park. So if you hear anything from your neighbors, please pass along. More fun news. on a higher level, but related to arts and culture, the annual Americans for the Arts convention is happening right now. Usually this convention, like so many other things, is in person, but this year and last year as well, they're offering it virtually. It continues through the 11th, so through the end of this week, and has 24 sessions, tons of speakers, all focused on how to build an equitable arts, culture, and creative economy sector and use that to drive a lot of the recovery coming out of the pandemic. I put it up here because the sessions are being recorded and will be available to registered participants for 3 months after the live event. I registered for the conference. I actually haven't had time to pop into any of the sessions yet, but I'm planning on accessing them once the recordings are live. So if anyone is interested in checking some of these out, I'm happy to kind of pass along the login information for you so you can access it through my account. I think there's a lot of really good stuff that's being covered during this convention. And as you're thinking about recovery on the micro level in Mercer Island, it could be really beneficial for you all to just tap into some of these ideas. So I'll include the link to the convention in a follow-up email tonight. And so you can at least check out, kind of the topics and some of the speakers. And if anyone's interested in engaging more closely with it, you can just shoot me an email and we'll get you set up. A few other city updates, very exciting. City staff can now use OneDrive to share files. I think collaborative documents and document sharing has been a topic of conversation for a little while. I think I remember it among this board a couple of years ago in particular. And so this could be a good solution for collaborative committee work going forward. In fact, Eric, Suzanne, and Anna-Meha already got a link from me today for a collaborative document connected to the Planning and Policy Reset Committee. So keep that in mind. Hopefully we can use this tool going forward on some of the work that we do together. And the city is officially on Instagram. You can follow the official city account at City of Mercer Island. This is separate from the Parks and Recreation account. We've had one for a while, or Parks and Rec has had one for a while. You can still access that at Mercer Island Parks and Recreation, but you can see here on the screen a picture from our first post, which is of one of the little ducklings that was rescued earlier this month by I think one of our public works team members. So check that out for fun content, and also I'm sure updates from the city and other interesting things that will be fun to engage with. And then there's a couple upcoming city meetings this month. City Council's next week on June 15th, and Planning Commission is on June 16th, both still via Zoom. And you can access the Zoom information for how to watch or watch the videos later via the city website. And then one other just quick update for you on a city project, but it also has a public art component. And I figured I have one other public art update later, but I figured I'd provide this early in the evening in case things run long. On May 18th, the council approved moving forward with the concept design for the Luther Burbank Docks project. You may have recalled, I think a couple of months ago, I touched on this project a little bit just to give you a bit of an update. And there were questions about some of the content related to public art and placemaking in the plaza. And so now the process is moving into the 30% design. Paul West, still in capital projects on the parks planning side, will be here for the September meeting, and he'll be coming in to talk about the integration of the handsome bollards into the plaza design. So we'll be able to revisit that work of art and talk about it in relation to this new project. And then also gauging interest, the Arts Council's interest in exploring other possibilities for public art and placemaking in the project. Then the 30% design where we're at right now is kind of prime time to engage on that. There are elements of it that are called out, I think, or were called out initially in some of the goals of the project. So this will be a good opportunity to revisit that and hear what Paul has to say about ways that we can engage. And that's all I have for my staff update. Any questions?
It looks great, Sarah. Thank you. That's a lot of good information. So should we go ahead and not pass over the minutes section of the meeting?
Yeah, let's skip it for now. If we need to eventually either come back to it this meeting or at a later meeting, we can do that.
So just procedurally, if we don't ever reach quorum at this meeting, we can continue to talk about everything. We just can't vote on anything.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So that we are skipping over our first item of business. So we're moving on to our second item of business. We're joined by consultant Emily Moon and Ryan Daly, Operations Transition Team Manager, to hear an update on the reset planning process and to provide input related to 2022 Arts Council operating budget needs. And Emily and Ryan, I just got an email today that the governor made an announcement that might be relevant to some of our planning, which sounds like good news, I think.
Yes, we've been anticipating that sort of news, that most of the restrictions would be lifted by the end of June or sooner if the state met vaccination and other targets. So in a nutshell, it's anticipated that large gatherings can occur, indoors and outdoors. There's a few different rules that will possibly, quite likely, stay in place for indoor large scale events, which I think they're defining as events 10,000 people or more. And yeah, so it is good. The rec team has certainly been planning with that anticipated action in mind as we've been thinking about how to restart some programs and services in open facilities. So as you all know, we have a game plan for 2021 for the community center, and we're in progress right now. I'm working on the 2022 plan, and that's kind of what we wanted to talk with you about tonight. We want to focus it on arts, but there's some overlap, of course, with the recreation plan for 2022. So I'll start with that very quickly. We will be going to City Council during their July 6th meeting. I always get the Parks and Rec Commission date and the council date mixed up. July 6th. And at that meeting, we will be giving them a high level, very high level preview to solicit some input on the 2022 portfolio of programs and services. And so we'll be telling them what we anticipate proposing to provide, and we will get some reaction, feedback on that. Use that to help inform what we shape up as a city manager's proposed budget amendment for recreation, the community center, and arts. And that will go back to City Council. My understanding is October, November timeframe. They'll deliberate November, December, take action on it in December, so that that revised budget, both kind of a brand new budget for recreation, but also an amendment for the biennial budget, the second year of the biennium, that would become effective January 1st, 2022. So again, we're working fast and furiously to try to put together high-level proposal that we can share with them in early July, and then be revising that, fine-tuning it so that we can present that again to City Council and the community for action this fall. So what does that mean for arts? What it means for arts is we want to try to incorporate that obviously into both that preview in July and then also the ask for 2022 that will be brought forward in the fall. And so we are working right now with subcommittees in particular to try to give some shape to not only the immediate action plan for 2021, but to start to think through what 2022 might involve. And for now, we've included a placeholder in that very high level preview that we're anticipating giving to City Council in July. That placeholder, as it said in your packet, mimics the budget that you've had in the past and the budget that you have for 2021. It's anticipated that that would be sufficient to do kind of same sort of scale of activities that you have done in the past. But again, we will have opportunities between that meeting in July and the deliberations that council undertakes in November to modify that proposal if we need to. So tonight, I think we're hoping that as we get the reports out from your committees, and I think we have a couple agenda items that sort of merge in some ways. So I'm doing that right now. But tonight we want to get some feedback from all of you on your thoughts on the 2022 budget. And we would contemplate in that funding that's in the placeholder right now, being able to continue to do some of the activities that you have in your immediate action plan, like mostly music in the park, running the indoor gallery, and then quite possibly carrying forward the public art project that you all are contemplating right now. But love to hear your thoughts on what you'd like to see in the 2022 budget.
I see a hand raised, Salim.
Well, one of the things that I'd like the Arts Council to discuss is this may not be the particular moment, but we need to be thinking about it, is the American Rescue Plan Act and the implications that has on our funding. We just found out in the last 48 hours that the city of Mercer Island is going to be getting $7.28 million as our allocation of the ARPA. And what it provides for is that due to COVID, those programs that suffered lost revenues can claw it back through the ARPA. And there's a couple different mechanisms for doing that. One of which is to take the budgeted revenues from the prior period and add 4.2% to it, and then basically apply the ARPA funds to it. And then that funding has to go back into programming. So it is conceivable that in 2022, we could ask for the limited budget that we've asked for already to be, let's say, renewed, and then have all of the ARPA funds allocated back to us as well. So we would be at, maybe 150 or 60% of a regular Arts Council budget in 2022. But we could be looking at the revenues that we lost from gallery sales, the revenues from any of the programs that would have generated receipts, and apply for ARPA through the city finance department. So it's not that we need to go out and fill any comprehensive forms out with the federal government for this, but we should have the discussion as an Arts Council, as a council that generates revenue, what our share of ARPA is going to be and how that might be additive to 2022 budgets.
Okay, so thank you, Salim. Are there any requirements of how to use those funds? Like
there's restrictions, as in it cannot be used to bolster reserves or pay for pensions or pay for accrued liabilities. It really needs to go back into operations. So if we have a hard time programming it, it would probably end up as a general fund surplus. But we have a hard time programming things we don't have the budget for. So
right. So say we say we lost revenue because we anticipated bringing in some from that arts and fly fishing event that we had to cancel. We don't have to try to recreate similar programs. We could do something different.
That's right. Yeah, you don't have to try and recreate the wheel. And I think we would be using the baseline budget that we had, which had forecast revenues in it as the nexus for what we're getting for ARPA. So I don't think we have to go out and do a bunch of exercises on how many paintings we would have sold or anything like that.
Well,
Awesome.
Erin, I've got my hand up.
Sorry,
Celine,
in time. Suzanne.
Celine, what is that number, that projected number of revenue? I mean, what are we talking about?
For the Arts Council,
Right.
I don't know. I think we'd have to look, but that's why I'm saying that it should be additive to a reset budget. Not, it's not going to fund us. It's just going to be on top of that.
It seems like our revenue would be pretty small, but I don't know.
Well, the gallery was turning 25% of its receipts over to the general fund, so we didn't even see that. But it really is in the Arts Council's purview to collect that. That's our lost revenue, even though it turns back to the general fund.
I'm just trying to, for planning purposes, trying to get an idea of what kind of number we're talking about.
Like I said, this is probably the moment to acknowledge it, but not necessarily discuss how to spend it.
Well, yeah, right. Just kind of volume or
Sarah
scale.
looks like she was about to say something.
Yeah, we track a lot of those pieces. I mean, it's a little difficult for the Arts Council since you didn't necessarily have like fee for service programs or activities, but we do track all of the gallery sales, all of the sponsorships and other grant revenue you would have gotten for programs such as Mostly Music in the Park. I don't know if maybe Emily and Ryan can speak to it briefly. So, because I agree, Celine, that's a great idea to be aware of it, but we don't need to get into the details right now. Just maybe how, if anything, those considerations are being included as you're going through the overall recreation budget process. You're accounting for kind of lost revenues from the small pieces of the Arts Council, and should we be adding that back in to some extent?
So that I can say we can certainly do that. We haven't, the limited guidance that I have received as sort of external has been to contemplate if there are needs in 2022 that may be able to be funded via the Recovery Act funds. And I think Councilmember Salim's suggestion of first understanding what the baseline is, because you do have to relate it back to that number of past revenue, therefore foregone, missed during the pandemic. And so we can report back to the Arts Council on what that number is. And we can certainly then have a future conversation about if we had access to those funds, how would we use them in 2022 or a subsequent year, because we have a few years that these funds will be coming in. So we can also be very thoughtful about it. Is there some sort of multi-year initiative that we want to undertake, or a project that we want to undertake? And that would be my guidance. I suspect finance team's guidance as well, is to really think about kind of those one-time catalyst kind of projects, how to meet extra needs, at this unique time when we have a little bit more funding. So we can get you that number and we can have a conversation about how that might fit in. My other understanding is that the City Council is both having separate and combined conversations regarding the interplay between the 2022 budget and the need to allocate the Recovery Act funds. So those are on some similar timeframes and also some different timeframes. So I think it would be wise for us to also shape up any request to use those Recovery Act funds as sort of another option under the budget.
Thanks, Emily. I was going to say that it might be a good time for the Arts Council to look back at some of those projects and things that we had focused on before the pandemic and sort of review whether they make sense anymore. And if we still want to focus on those things that have been put on hold for a while, like the focus on what we were calling the Gateway Project of uniting the new light rail with town center in a creative way. Does that make sense still post-pandemic? You know, there might be some things that don't anymore or won't anymore, things that we might want to revisit. That's my thought. Is there any other input that you're seeking from us specifically right now, Emily?
Well, I think it would be helpful to know if we're completely off track with asking for sort of the continuation of the funding level that you've had in the past. And if asked in July, again, we'll have time to shape up a more definitive proposal. But if asked in July, right now, I'm inclined to say Arts Council will be continuing on with kind of some similar programs and activities as it has in the past. I just want to double check that Arts Council feels comfortable with at least a vague statement like that.
I think I do. Does anyone else have any strong opinions?
I would think that and maybe a little more if we're going to do mostly music in the park, right? We settled on 3 events this year. I'd like to see us get back to the 6 that we did before. So that would be more money and better acts that we could justify spending a little more money on, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Salim, are you?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that when I last touched the music in the parks issue, it was kind of pre-Ryan, you taking that on and being the staff liaison. I know there was a robust discussion about delivering that series a little bit differently and maybe with some additional contract labor components to it. So as we think through, you know, getting back to the 6 that we were at, the cost for that is going to be greater than it used to be, because we're definitely going to hire somebody to, as a contract position, to do more of the heavy lift in terms of organizing that series. So I think there's your delta right away on the ARPA, is that if we restored our budget in 2022 to pre-21 levels, you would not get 6 music in the parks for the same amount of money. It's going to have to be a little bit higher because we're going to try and take some of the staff lift and make that third party lift, which is kind of the new model of doing things.
Yeah, I think that's a great thought, because that's sort of a piece to this whole Arts Council reset that we haven't necessarily delved into so much, as where we're going to land and how we're going to have staff support.
That's right. I mean, Emily really spent quite a bit of time thinking and documenting and talking about how do we deliver the services in a different way. And Music in the Park is perfectly teed up to be delivered in a different way. And we know it's one of the most beloved programs. So it's certainly something that we want to put some resources on in 22 and beyond.
Amy, do you have your hand up?
Yes, please. I wanted to say along those lines, we need dedicated staff support for the gallery and the community center as well. We've lost all that. We can't do sales right now because we don't have staff to support the normal operations that we've done in the past. That needs to come back.
And to that point, I think we had talked about budgeting some money to hire Myval to do the kind of staff the gallery in terms of a labor component. I assume we have something baked in the budget for that now.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at for either the remainder of 2021 and going into 2022 is sitting down with Myval and having a conversation about the role that they may be able to play and how they might be able to help us and actually enhance the gallery program for the community, be more of a partnership and marketing it and making it an opportunity for artists and just celebrating art of the community. So staff is going to be having those conversations. I think there's been a light one thus far, but we're going to continue to have those conversations to think about how we could do it differently, at least behind the curtain in 2021. I think what the public would experience would be very much the same. And certainly looking in 2022 to augment staff in the community center and continue to evolve that partnership with MyBall so that we can make the gallery a successful thing.
I think I misspoke a little while earlier as well, is that we also need the component of supporting the management aspect of it, all of the time and work that Sarah has put into the managing the gallery, contracting the artists as well. So that side, please add that to the list.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that's going to be part of our conversation with MyBall as well.
Carol, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind, we're a nonprofit organization that doesn't routinely get hired out to do things. And we have very little information from you guys as to what you want us to do, but beyond the normal volunteer relationship that we have, where we provide, volunteer help and, work on programs and work on the gallery. So this is a new area that's going to need my, board involvement as well. And we're interested in having the conversation, but this is not, I'm not sure. I mean, if we're talking about hiring staff, that's quite different than partnering with a nonprofit arts organization to promote and develop and enhance art on the island.
Yeah, let me just step in and say the last conversation that we had and the option that we want to continue to talk about is the city providing the facility, but bringing in more community members, MyBall in particular, to help to ensure that we market the gallery to potential artists, help decide, what kind of exhibit we want to have at different times, help staff the setup of that particular exhibit. And then we spoke about contemplating a different methodology for selling the art, right? So instead of transactions happening spur of the moment, just in time through the front desk of the community center, perhaps there's an option to provide a little better self-service to individuals that might have an interest in the art. And so they might have the ability to scan a QR code and learn more about that particular piece and see if sales pending or if it's still available, and have a direct contact to maybe it's a MyBall volunteer, maybe it's a city staff member, but at a more I guess, specific time, that individual, whether it's a MyBall volunteer or city staff member, would then reconnect with the person that had an interest to purchase the art and then be able to perform that transaction. So what we're looking at is more efficient use of the front desk staff, better service to art buyers, and potentially ease of sales for both the artists, MyBall, and the city and the customer. So I think we have options. We'll work them out, and we surely will come to this. We want this to be a partnership, so it needs to work for both parties.
Ryan, did you have something to add on to that? And then Carol, and I think Suzanne, or maybe you lowered your hand.
Yeah, I did. The one thing, and it sticks out with what Amy was saying on needing staff. I want the Arts Council to know that, and this conversation has been going on between Sarah, Emily, and myself pretty frequently, how we're going to provide that same level of staffing resource to the Arts Council, but probably not with one specific individual. So you're going to be utilizing, as we talked about way early in this process, you're now getting the opportunity to utilize an entire division and a variety of staff members who have a variety of specialties. So, you know, when we talk about the arts component or the event component through MMIP or the gallery component, we have different staff who would fill those different roles, with myself presumably sort of coordinating all of that work within the department, so, or in the division. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared that's sort of the focus that we have as we move forward.
Thanks, Ryan. Suzanne, you've had your hand up for a while.
I guess that kind of what Ryan just said was kind of where my concern is. You know, having a dedicated staff person is so important to the continuity. It's not that they have to run out and do every job. I do think sharing the jobs and contracting the jobs sounds very reasonable and doable, but I think if we want to make arts a priority in our community, we have to have a dedicated person that keeps that continuity from month to month, year to year. And also it brings to mind a question, and it's not a big deal, but I think there will, out of the whole reset plan, there will be a rewrite of parts of the, you know, art code portion of the comp plan and that sort of thing. Will that be contracted out, or will, it seems to me, I mean, it could go, I don't know. I'm just asking, would that be contracted out or would that be done by staff? Just a question.
Sure. So Ryan, I might jump in just for a second and say, we'll look at individual projects on a case-by-case basis and try to come up with what is the best solution for the Arts Council. In some cases, we believe that rec staff will be able to provide that function. I think special events is a great thing to point to, arts programming, classes, etc. Recreation is built to handle those kinds of activities. Although we haven't talked to the City Council about this yet on the rec side, we are contemplating restructuring the rec division in order to make sure that we have clear focus on some of these pieces we've been talking about. So clear focus on community partnerships and special events. That's on our functional org chart. That is 1/3 of the functional org chart for recreation going forward. So I do believe we're going to have capacity, expertise within the rec staff on some pieces, but Suzanne, you brought up a really great example of a comp plan process, and that is a bigger process and one that sometimes cities often ask for some consultant help with and try to find some special expertise. And so that's a every few years kind of thing. And you don't often hire and gear up to staff something that only happens every 5 or 6 years. So that's a perfect opportunity for us to contemplate bringing in another resource.
Carol, did you have an add-on to that?
Well, I actually think we just lost Carol. So maybe we'll come back. She just dropped off on my screen.
Oh, she had her hand up too long. Shoot. Okay. Well, I think this is great conversation. I don't know if you got enough information, Emily, but I think it sounds like a continuing conversation and that we have issues that we need to look at in more depth as far as planning for the longer term future. But for the most part, I don't think we necessarily want you to go to City Council and ask for less than our old budget.
Right.
So I think we could probably all agree on that.
For sure. Thank you. I appreciate all the input, and we certainly are going to incorporate that into what we talked to City Council about in July. And then, as I said, we'll have subsequent opportunities to come back together and talk about what we want 2022 to look like. Your committees are going to continue to work. These conversations are going to continue to play out. And we'll have another opportunity to fine tune and ask for exactly what we want to propose. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. All right, so let's move on to our third item of regular business, which is actually tonight our second item of regular business, which is updates on our immediate arts action plan and reset committees. And as a reminder, we established the following ad hoc committees to make progress on the immediate action plan and longer term plan. Mostly Music in the Park being one, the Community Arts Project, the Indoor Gallery, and long-term planning. So since the May meeting, each reset committee has met to move reset work forward. Tonight, each committee will provide an update and seek input and/or feedback from the full board. We welcome back Sarah to kick off the committee updates.
Okay, well, I think the conversation we were just having is a good segue, and I think maybe some of the updates can help inform some of the work outside of this meeting and conversations that we'll continue to have with Emily and Ryan with the reset budget for 2022. But yeah, so we managed to fit in all of the reset committee meetings for kickoff since May. So thank you to everyone for making time in various ways, either virtually or in person, to start these conversations. And, you know, just as a reminder, I mean, we all kind of know this because these meetings are fresh in our mind, but part of the reason we have this ad hoc committee structure is really to get into some of the details and ideas and brainstorming outside of this bigger group. So we can work a little more on refining those ideas before bringing them back as a way to kind of conserve everyone's time and keep things moving forward. So I know that I had the opportunity to participate in several of the conversations over the past week and a half, and they were full of ideas and really energizing. And so I think that we're moving in a good direction. I think for these committee updates, just kind of rolling it out, I thought it would be helpful if everyone, each committee, subcommittee could just share a few minutes about kind of high level, what your group talked about, where you're kind of thinking for a direction for your various committee area. I think some committees may have specific questions already tonight that they want to ask other board members to weigh in on. But, you know, we don't necessarily have to use this time to dig into very specific details or anything like that. Really more of just this is what we've been talking about, and you know, gathering a little bit of feedback from the rest of the group if needed. So I thought also, so it's not just me and Erin talking, that we could do a little round robin on some of these. So I'm going to start with Mostly Music in the Park. That was the meeting I was not in attendance at. So I'm wondering if Erin, Eric, or Ryan can give us an update on how it went and where you guys are at.
I'll start it off and then I'll pass the baton to Eric and Ryan. But we had a great meeting. It was awesome. It was really great to see each other in person again. And we're happy to report that we have a subcommittee member who joined us for a meeting, who is helping to plan a little bit. The one and only Matt Loam came to our meeting. So it was really great to see him and get his thoughts. It was very valuable. And I'll let Eric and Ryan finish. If you
I was going to chime in. It was great to have Matt. I mean, I've always wanted either former or non-arts council members to be on subcommittees because we can. So it was great to have someone who's very familiar. And, you know, we were trying to brainstorm and we'd come up with ideas and he would be able to tell us what would work, what wouldn't work. So I think he's going to be beneficial with that. We've got a building list. Maybe Ryan, you jotted down how many of the bands we are kind of building right now, but we got great input from Matt and, you know, and are putting that list together right now.
This summer is going to be rocking. I mean, honestly, you guys heard me talk about this a couple meetings ago, how exciting it is. And then we had the meeting yesterday and it was just a lot of fun and getting Matt involved again, which I think, Eric, to your point, is just outstanding to to have returning Arts Council members continue to support the council. And that's to me, that's really what our long-term is about. But for this summer, we are dialed in on the sound. We're dialed in on the dates. That's August 19th, 26th, and September 2nd. I should say we are in the early planning stages from city staff of doing a volunteer recognition, potentially on that September 2nd. So a little more information to come there, but starting to bolster that event a little bit. I did get the chance today to sneak away for a little bit and reach out to about 6 of our potential bands, one of which is available. Waiting to hear back on a couple of the others, but that's a really good sign. I mean, it's really good for where we are right now. And then with the, as Aaron mentioned earlier in the meeting, the restrictions being lifted a bit, especially on these outdoor events, it takes a significant burden off of what we were anticipating maybe back in February. So you can probably hear it in my voice. I feel really good about where we are right now. And I think that's a real credit to the Arts Council for putting us in this position to move forward. And Councilmember Neese also for, we'll say, kicking that ball down the road to get us moving. And so that was much appreciated. But that's kind of where we're at with MMIP right now. I think I probably have a couple of staff members fighting over who's going to get to work that night. So we're in a great spot to move forward.
And once again, the dates are
August 19,
19.
26, and September 2nd.
Okay.
And those are all Thursdays still.
So for all those audience members out there listening, mark your calendars. Yeah, thank you, Ryan. I think it's going to be fabulous.
Yeah, I'll just add on that once we confirm these bands, which I'm hoping will be like by early next week, we'll be moving right into promo mode and getting some promotional materials prepared to get out to the community. So once we hit July would be my guess. We're going to have a lot of messaging going out, really pumping this MMIP and getting people excited about it. From a city staff standpoint, it's the first event we're running. I mean, it's a really big deal for where we are. So looking forward to it. And thank you again to all the help you guys are providing.
And it's good timing for having a new Instagram account to push out some promotional, make it go viral.
Amy, do you have a question or a comment? I see your hand.
I did. Sorry, I'm really late to the game, so I apologize with this comment. But I just was remembering today that For Culture has the artists series, and I just wanted to make sure that you all were aware of those artists, and that if any of those artists are on your list, I don't know what their status is this year with COVID restrictions, but there might be something that can help there.
That's a really good reminder, Amy.
Some bands also on their website.
Yeah, I can point that to Ryan in case we run into problems finding people, for sure. That's a good idea. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, thanks for that update, guys. Sounds like a very productive and fun conversation. Excited to hear most of the music is moving forward. Let's move on to the Community Arts Project. Suzanne, Carol, Aaron, and I met out at Mercerdale Park last week to chat about this, and I basically twisted Suzanne's arm and asked her to give the update tonight. So Suzanne, do you mind updating everyone on what we discussed and where we're at?
I'll just give the highlights. This is and correct me if anything I misstate, this is a project, a community art project. And actually Aaron came up with some language. It's, just a placemaker. It's a project documenting and synthesizing the pandemic experience of Mercer Island to preserve, heal, bond, and celebrate our island's resilience of the pandemic or whatever. So, I mean, we can refine that if we want, but it's a nice placeholder. Thanks, Aaron. I thought it was well done. And so this is, and Carol really gave us some guidance on how we could use materials and prompts to engage our community visually and in writing about their experiences during the pandemic. So we haven't got into the nitty-gritty details. We think we'll be using plastic core sign material as the substrate to receive the art. We may have some prompts on the back of that material, or there may be even prompts and writing from participants on the back. And these are then pieces of art that can be combined into a major display in our community, and it can be used maybe at the community center or at Music in the Park. So all the pieces of art together will hopefully capture the story of the pandemic for our residents. Anybody else have anything to add? Thank you guys, Carol and Aaron and Sarah, for coming, getting together and kind of synthesizing this idea. I think it's pretty exciting. We have a budget that from For Culture of $10,000. I guess to continue on one question I had, and I asked at our meeting is, again, it's going to require getting materials out, getting them back, planning, getting, I mean, it's really quite an undertaking, even though we've made it as simple as we can. So my question to the Arts Council and City Council and staff is, who's going to do the work? Who's going to make the purchase of the plastic panels? Who's going to come up with the prompts? Who's going to come up with the art materials? Who's going to distribute them? Who's going to bring them back? So that's kind of my question.
Yeah, during our meeting, Carol or Suzanne had raised, the possibility of contracting with someone again, to help facilitate some pieces of this project, knowing that, especially probably at the beginning, there will be a lot of logistics to get out supplies, kind of come up with, really curate the ideas and everything. Those types of expenses can be covered by the For Culture grant. So I think as we get into a little more of the planning and refining of the ideas, we'll have to really look at kind of that work plan item of who's executing what. We could do it nimbly, that would be great, but we also want to make sure it's done well. So that's a big conversation we still need to have.
I just wanted to add that I was really excited about the talk that we had about partnering with different community organizations and the outreach involved in that, and building relationships again, similar to what we did, or what you did, Sarah, with the Lantern Project. And Carol had a lot of input with that as well. So I really appreciated the trajectory of that conversation. It's, I think, something that we want to continue to do. And Carol, you dropped off. I know you had your hand up. So before this meeting ends, if you have more to input about the gallery, we'll give you a chance to do that. I just wanted to mention that really quick. Ryan.
I might have missed it, but was there a timeline on that project? And so the reason I ask is I think we do have the staff resources to support it once we get through this summer. I mean, that's when we start to, Aaron got to hear me talk about planning a lot last night. And for me, once I know what the project is, I've got the people in my mind right now that could carry out exactly everything that Suzanne talked about once I can put it on their work plans. So that would be one of the key questions.
It's 2020. It has to be finished by the end. Money has to be spent by the end of the year.
Right. Okay.
I think we talked a lot about doing some heavy promotion during the summer, especially the possibility of trying to utilize our Music in the Park to promote the project, where we can get actual ears and if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we had talked about that, if there's a way, you know, kind of bundle supplies and that sort of thing and hand them out at events like Mostly Music in the Park. Maybe there could even be like a booth at Art Uncorked, although that's a different demographic maybe to some extent. But I think there may be some opportunity, even if it's on a small scale, to leverage some of these other things that we're doing to get the word out and distribute, you know, engage participants in the project. So if nobody else has any other questions or comments about Community Arts Project, then it actually would be a good segue onto the indoor gallery, especially since Carol's back. So Amy and Carol, I'll hand it off to Amy first to kind of give an update about the conversations we had yesterday and last week, just to where we're thinking about going with the gallery.
Okay, great, thank you. We also had some really great meetings, and I think I'm not as animated as Ryan, but I think we are just as excited about the indoor gallery as he is about the events. And we're just so looking forward to getting art back in that space. We understand that we have restrictions, budget restrictions, limitations, COVID protocols, and we know we need to be adaptable to that. But we also know that the art gallery has been a huge key project for the Arts Council for a long time. It supports local artists. It brings art into the community and supports our community by providing that access to art. We think it really needs to be a priority in the community center reset plan to include the gallery in 2021, ramping up to 2022. So our goal is that we have a ramp-up plan that gets the gallery going again so that we're ready in 2022 to be fully running with a budget, with dedicated city staff, and back to whatever our normal activity, you know, is going to end up being. So just a very high level, we're exploring plans to do phased reopenings with the ability again to adjust to the budget resources and pandemic restrictions as we go, whatever that means. We know that the plans for even the communities that are reopening are floating, so we have to be able to adjust to that. We are incredibly lucky to have Myval and Carol and the other volunteers there to have helping with this, because that's going to be the difference, I think, about making this happen. So everybody, huge thank you to them. So the basic structure that we're thinking about proposing, that we want to propose and we want to get feedback on, please, is starting with smaller than normal exhibits. We know we can't go full steam ahead already. So smaller exhibits, partner with Myval to organize, plan, and support managing those exhibits. Potentially start in 2021 with only Myval and island only art to keep the focus on our local community and help get them bounced back as well. It minimizes the organization, the contracting, and a lot of the work that goes around supporting the exhibits. That might mean having a junior art show, which Carol works with and is prepared to help us stage. It would mean also trying to get the Myval holiday show in, and potentially one more Myval show fit in there, depending on the timing. The actual logistics of getting it done, just to get art back in the space. Again, we start small, so we'd only start with trying to fill the big wall, the entrance wall. We know that the attendance in the community center is going to be not huge through 2021, at least now. And so we want to at least get art on the wall, but not necessarily try to fill the whole gallery. We want to try to limit the volunteers to the number of people that are allowed to be, you know, fitting the COVID protocols, who can be in there at one time to hang the art and pick up the art and bring the art from the cars into the gallery, all of the logistics of just getting the art on the wall. We would need city staff to let us in and provide us access to the storage areas so we can get the ladders and all the kit, all the stuff up. We would like to ask for the ability to schedule visits so that parents can see their children's art on the wall, so that the children can see their own art on the wall if it's part of the junior gallery, so that members of the community can go in that are interested in wanting to see it, so that they can schedule visits to go in and see it. Again, just following the indoor protocols, COVID protocols from the state. We would plan for MyVol or the other individual artists to manage their own sales so that we would not have to coordinate sales within 2021. That wouldn't be needed for the junior art show anyway, because they don't have sales. And really briefly and short, we think that running the phased reopening with the smaller exhibits, controlled visits, no art sales, would help us relearn how to run the gallery again, basically, and also help us learn what we need to do and run the gallery in 2022, following the process that's being set up by the city and the Parks and Rec and the building up of the staff, and just really want to establish that space as a community art space again before 2022. And Carol, I would appreciate, and Eric, I would appreciate you jumping in with anything I missed.
No, that was very, very well said, Amy.
Yeah, I agree. And it's very highly dependent on access to the building. And if the building's not going to be open, then we're going to have to think outside the box about how to display art until, maybe through windows. I think Sarah suggested until we have access. But even any kind of limited access, I think, Amy, tell me if you disagree, is a go. If there is somebody in the building to let in the people hanging it and people walking through at any time, then I think we're ready to hang some art.
I'll jump in with a question about that. Will the new governor's lifting of restrictions be able to allow more people in to that? And also, did you talk about the summer camps coinciding with any shows? Because I know Parks and Rec is running a number of youth camps over the summer, because my kids are signed up for a couple, but there are probably, I'm guessing, some that are occurring in the building, and it might be nice to sort of pair up the junior show with the summer camps to not only either promote participation in the show or it would be a good audience.
We did talk exactly about that, actually, and we talked about even potentially hanging the junior art show in phases by an age group to get through the summer and to be able to have all the art show over time. It means more effort. It means more volunteer time doing the turnovers. It means more planning and scheduling of the drop-off and the pickup of all the art. But I think it's a great way to get the children's art on the walls and have all the, however much it's not clear to us how much of the summer camp will actually be inside, or if they're just dropping their backpacks out there, right? So regardless, it would be great to have the art on the walls for when the kids do go through.
I agree. And Emily, I think your hand is up.
Sure, and I know Brian can speak to this too. I just wanted to make sure it got covered. I wanted to provide some clarity about building operations as we see them. So summer camp is starting the week of June 21st, runs the entire summer. Activity will be happening in the building as well as outside. So we're anticipating kids and parents coming in and out of the building at various times. We're also anticipating later in July, second half of July, beginning to introduce more people into the building through gymnasium rentals and drop-in activities in the gymnasium. So sports and fitness related activities. That's about what we're right-sized staff-wise to handle. We will be bringing on a few additional front desk staff, for example, and we're building up through 2021, and we hope to be even further ahead for 2022. And so we have said that the building won't be open for just general public to walk in, because we won't have the staff to kind of monitor the entire facility. And we won't have programming happening in the rest of the facility. Plus, at least for a few months, I understand thrift shop donations will be happening at the community center. So in order to just manage the space, we are opening the building to the participants, the users of the activities that are planned in the building. So parents, kids, summer camp, those individuals participating in drop-in sports and fitness, and gymnasium renters and their participants. And I think as we get a little further into fall, we may start offering some additional drop-in type of activities, but we need to make sure, I'm sure you all have read about labor shortages. We need to make sure that we actually can hire some staff in order to provide the level of service we need to in the building. And as for access to the building, we will have additional staff on board. We have existing staff, and we're ready to coordinate those drop off, pick up, the exhibit setup. We're ready to do that. So I just want to mitigate any concerns that you might have about that.
Thank you. Can we consider supporting scheduled visits by some type of, drop-in mechanism that we didn't, so we wouldn't have to wait until September? Can we explore trying to use the existing structure that you're going to be starting up with, and somehow finding a way to be able to get time windows or specific times where parents can go in specifically to see the art?
Yes, I think we can work that out, and we can probably have some sidebar conversations about what is the exhibit going to look like and when, and how can we arrange that. But we're definitely willing to try to make that work.
Thank you. It's really important.
I would add, if I could, so summer camps is taking place in the community center. I want to say it's probably 3 different camp programs. There's 2 camp programs in the main part of the center and 1 on the exterior. One of our focuses has been to limit the number of people coming in and out, and these are third-party contracted camps, so they're actually dictating their check-in process, which many of them are being very stringent on, and rightfully so. And so many aren't actually allowing parents to come into the facility. 2 of those programs actually, for sure. And so I'm just highlighting that could be one of those challenges. And I think when Amy mentioned the scheduling aspect, to me, that's starting to think outside the box of some opportunity maybe that is there. Once we have the staffing to have maybe, set gallery hours or something like that for the visitations, but there's a little bit to work through on that process. Okay. But excellent ideas. I mean, I'm very supportive. I was in the community center today, and blah, really nice walls though. Really, really nice walls.
Right, if it had some art on it.
They're a great color, right?
They are a great color. Oh, I love it. So Amy's.
The timing on that was just incredible.
Okay. Any other comments or questions about the gallery conversation? Great. And that was a fantastic summary, Amy, of our conversations. You very well prepared for this meeting. I appreciate it. I have the boring task of reporting out on the long-term planning committee, the less fun committee, but Eric, Suzanne, Anna and I met yesterday. Emily also joined us for that meeting via Zoom to kind of look toward the future in terms of really the long-term reset. So we have kind of the immediate action plan items that we've all just discussed that we decided we wanted to try to pull off in 2021. Some of that will inform 2022, it sounds like, based on what we want to keep going. But then there's kind of the longer term horizon, knowing that, you know, we still have some work we need to do in order to build back to where you all were pre-pandemic. So our conversation yesterday was, I would say, fairly high level, focusing kind of on framework and what we hope to accomplish. We talked about you know, really looking at some of the foundational documents that you all have, like the ordinance and the bylaws and the arts and culture plan in the comp plan, as really kind of level setting, making sure that the priorities and your action items will kind of reach back to those documents. You know, are we doing the things that we're chartered to do within the ordinance? How do we need to, you know, enact our charter even better, kind of thing. So we started really with 2022, knowing that that's some of the conversation that is maybe more immediate, since we have some city council conversations coming up on the reset plan side. And we identified really 3 priority areas that we want to address. One is board recruitment and volunteer recruitment. So really looking at, you know, stabilizing the organization and making sure that we are able to keep board members engaged and active. The other was going out to the community and really figuring out, one, what they want to see from the Arts Council, and 2, if they even know kind of who the Arts Council is. So starting to build back some of that awareness. I think that outreach can be twofold, both with residents, community members, but also community organizations, kind of continuing that theme of building up stronger partnerships with organizations like MyVol, you know, figuring out better ways that the city, you all as a city agency, can help support those types of organizations coming out of this pandemic. And then the third kind of priority area was really building kind of stronger connections and relationships with the city. So the city in terms of city council, staff, and other boards and commissions, which I think those themes have, you know, populated a lot of our conversations over the last several months. So right now we all we've got a document to collaborate in. We're all kind of coming up with some action items for those different priority areas. And we're going to come together in a couple of weeks to review what we talked about and kind of refine, see where there's some overlap. So I think, you know, we'll at least be able to come back to the full board probably next month with, you know, some clear ideas probably for 2022 to run by you. But then we also will be looking more kind of long-term at some of the things that we really need to accomplish. Maybe not as specific on work plan action items within those priorities, but at least starting to look more concertedly at what work we need to get done from a planning, policy, and public art perspective. Suzanne and Eric, did I miss anything? Awesome. Well, again, thank you to all of you for making so much time literally over the last, I think, like 6 days to work on all of this. It's energizing to hear from all of you in different ways how this has been engaging. And I think that we're in a good spot to keep things moving forward. So go committees, you're doing great.
Yay. So before we move on, in circling back to long-term planning, I wanted to bring this up because it's something that came up this week, in that we're in this stage of the Arts Council where we've been pared way down. Now we're trying to rebuild and redefine and sort of assess the best services we can provide. And the city is very much in planning mode. I just wanted to bring up and make sure that as we're looking forward, that we can build into our plans the flexibility to jump onto opportunities that might arise. And in the past, the Arts Council, we really were very welcoming of community members. It was definitely a different format with meetings and such, but it was pretty often that we'd have community members join us and sort of vet ideas that they had. So one community member reached out this past week about an idea that might be, it very well could have great potential for the island and the community as far as an exciting temporary exhibit. So I just want to make sure as we move forward that there is room in our planning to consider and hear out possibilities that might be something that we would need to move quickly on, that could be a temporary thing, and not get sort of stuck in our planning process. I agree that we need to have like very defined plans for things that might be bigger projects or more permanent projects, but just make sure that there's like a placeholder, a bookmark in our planning that is left for the possibility of something unknown at this point. Suzanne, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I would. I think in the past, for example, the JCC came to us with a very developed idea, and we worked in collaboration with them, and I think we gave them some money. And just in viewing other cities that in the last few days, I was just looking at their arts councils seem to be very supportive of 8 other arts bodies in their community. I mean, I think Bainbridge Island gives out like $150,000 a year to their arts community. So their city is giving money pumping money into the arts community. And I just wonder, I think to your point, I think with time and money, we need to seize these opportunities, because otherwise we just become stagnant doing the same old thing. And not the same old thing, they're wonderful things. But I mean, part of art is creativity, is that new thing. And so I really don't want to miss those opportunities. And I think somehow we have to work that into our charter, if you want to use that term. So I agree with you 100%.
Cool. All right. Moving on. Unless somebody has anything else they want to chime in on that.
Aaron, I would chime in on that. I do want to make sure the Arts Council understands that the situation we're in today is just today, and everything we're building is geared toward exactly, I think, what you were just stating, that ability to be flexible, that ability to be dynamic and nimble when needed. That would be my anticipation of where we are coming into, or I should say midway through 22. I see ourselves being resourced more appropriately to have that. Today, it's kind of the Ryan, Sarah, and Emily show, but later on in this process, or not even this process, at the conclusion of this process, we're going to be in a better place to be able to make those adjustments and more nimble in those aspects. So I just wanted to share that I agree with those sentiments. I think it's extremely important, and it's not just important to the Arts Council either. I think it's a department-wide, it's a city-wide need for an ability to have some flexibility and adaptability. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And to the point of it being the Sarah, Ryan, and Emily show, throughout the pandemic, you guys have been doing a fabulous job of running the show and running with things that have come up, such as the Lantern Project. I mean, the Arts Council wasn't even consulted on that before the city you know, and it was great. It was fabulous. I just want to make sure there's room to invite us back to the table, because that is what the Arts Council is meant to do, is to have an involvement in bridging the community and the city and being involved in anything arts related. So just to be mindful of that as we move forward, and to take cool opportunities when they come up. That's all. All right, moving on to.
Actually, Erin, it looks like Salim had his
Oh.
hand up.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna respond to Susie's comment, because I'm almost certain within our charter, we already have the capacity that you're talking about. And we used to do it, as you kind of recounted, with JCC and their art event. I think it's just a matter of getting back to a baseline budget that has some funding in it, and then getting back into the cycle of doing those grants. It's obviously a different scale than Bainbridge Island, but you know, the capacity is all there. We don't need to rewrite that into the Arts Council's bylaws or anything. We can do that. And I think we should. I mean, it's a great way to do programming when you don't have to organize it. You're just granting somebody else to do it.
Definitely. I think the concern is more just as we move forward, how rigid and strict are we going to be to stick to this plan that we're developing now? As far as, are we going to somewhat get back to that flexibility, or are we going to have a very narrowly focused plan for the Arts Council and only be able to stick to that? It's just a concern that came up this week.
Staff would encourage us to stick to the plan, but to your point, build in that flexibility. So, and when it's recognized and we know what amount of flexibility, I think that's really the question. And that's where us as staff are really here to work alongside the Arts Council to make sure that we're right sized, and make sure that those needs and those resources are available to the Arts Council to make sure that we can deliver what we want to do. And to Councilmember Nisa's point on utilizing other groups to provide some of the services or the programming, one, it's just relationship building. That's awesome. That's what we should be all about, I feel like, as an Arts Council. So I think excellent points all the way around.
Does anyone else have a thought before I move on? I don't want to miss anyone. All right, moving on to what would tonight be the third item of regular business, is to discuss Arts Council officer positions and board recruitment. And I think this is probably the most important thing on our agenda tonight, because a lot of this stuff that we're talking about will be really hard to do without Arts Council members. So Sarah, I think you have something to add on that.
I do. So yes, on the topic of positions and board members and recruitment. So last week at City Council, Council went through the process to appoint members to the various commissions, and we did not have any applications for the Arts Council, new applicants. So we did not get any new appointees. And we also kind of missed the boat with Erin, because Erin is technically at her term limit now. Now she's able to be here tonight and continue serving in her capacity because no one was appointed to her position. So per the code, we kind of get to keep her a little bit longer until we appoint, we have some new appointees. So this is kind of a conversation we queued up last month. I don't know, I don't think that lended as much urgency to it as we probably needed to, but we're kind of at, really at an impasse right now in terms of members and even the officer positions, knowing that, your chair right now, we continue to extend those positions during the pandemic, will only be with us kind of for a finite amount of time. So to kind of address that to some extent, I wanted to talk with you all tonight. And I think some Arts Council members are aware of this. Councilmember Neese is as well. There's potentially an ordinance amendment going to City Council next week that was brought forth, I think, by the city manager's office. And it has kind of two pieces to it to amend the ordinance. So one is to amend the language on term limits. Term limits are something that I think we put in place a couple of years ago when we did an overhaul of all of the board and commission ordinances, really putting in term limits and kind of prohibiting people from continuing to serve. But we recognize that we're kind of running into a situation where there may be instances where you have very dedicated, committed board members who want to continue to serve. And if there's no new members to appoint, it may be, or no new applicants, a third term limit may be a good choice. So there's language about that, amending the term limit language. And then the other piece that I really want your feedback on tonight is reducing the number of Arts Council seats from 9 to 7, which would be consistent with all of the other boards. You might recall back at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, we reduced from 11 to 9. All of the other boards reduced, if they needed to 7. And I think on our end, we had several members still in position, so we didn't want to kick anyone off of the board. Now we have several vacancies. There is interest from city leadership in kind of making consistent a lot of the structure and process related to boards and commissions, not necessarily that you all work the same or are responsible for the same types of things, but some of it comes down to a management standpoint. So there's a little bit of a rationale there for increasing the consistency across the board. And also, I mean, I think we're kind of seeing this tonight, right? Like we have 2 members who didn't show up, and so we don't have a quorum. There isn't necessarily a major legal ramification or risk from not filling vacancies, but it is getting in the way of conducting business, for this board. We bring things to you all have things that you want to move forward. And if we don't have the people to do it, if we can't make a quorum, then that just delays the progress even more. I would say that there are probably pros and cons of reducing the size of the board, but I wanted to get your reactions, your thoughts about that, any questions you might have, and we can, go from there.
Can we pair with reducing the number of the board members from 9 to 7, pair it with allowing a third term for another member? So bundle it together. I would hate to lose Erin. I mean, she's been such an essential piece of what we've been doing and all of the momentum that we had pre-pandemic. So if that's a consideration to allow for a third term, that would be fantastic. But my concern with reducing the board, I feel like we need to build up our subcommittee members more, whether that's getting other people that aren't on the council, like a Matt, to be influential on these subcommittees to help with the workload. I don't know how we do that, but I would feel a lot more comfortable going from 9 to 7 if we had strength at the subcommittee level to help with all the work that we're trying to do.
Salim.
I was going to make a very similar point to what Eric just made, which is the strength is going to be with the past members in the subcommittee level, which is really the working level, where we can do planning and organizing of the targeted events that we want. I was going to ask the additional question of, has there been any consideration given to the number of meetings and drawing that back to allow for more subcommittee work and maybe timing our meetings seasonally? we meet every month, but our cadence of programming is not that way. We do a lot in the summer and we need a lot of planning support, maybe in the fall and the winter. And during the summer, we probably don't need all the meetings. Would that be a way to maybe make it more attractive to serve if we didn't have so many meetings? So just a thought. I'm not sure if anybody would agree that it would or wouldn't.
I see the point with that, and I think we have talked about, especially, I think we're going to talk about it tonight, about maybe going to every other month for a little bit. From my experience, I mean, I haven't even, when I've talked to people about joining the Arts Council, I haven't even gotten to the amount of meetings before people say, I can't do it, So I don't know if it's the amount of meetings right now, or it's just like the state we're in as a community, that people are overworked, tired. Things have been shut down, but a lot of people, especially parents, have taken on a lot more than is like normal for a human being to do with their kids at home. So I mean, it's a hard question to know. I mean, the flip side of it is that for those people that are part of the Arts Council who, would they feel like their rhythm is lost by not meeting monthly? Once we get back to more of a normal like meeting in person and a little more engagement and involvement in the community, maybe people would sort of drop out of involvement if they don't have those meetings. I don't know, it's just a thought. But it's a good point.
Amy, do you have a question or a comment? See your hand.
Yes, please. My concern with dropping to 7 in that way would be a permanent change. And we're in a situation right now that is different, and people are being pulled in different directions, and we're down some members. But there have also been times where we've been working on a lot of projects at once and needed a lot of help, even for just covering all the board chairs. And Derek definitely like leveraging subcommittee people for sure. But there are some things that need, similar to the way we talked about, we needed somebody, city staff, somebody regularly with Arts Council to keep the momentum and keep the knowledge. There is something to be said with that, with the Arts Council members as well, with keeping that knowledge and keeping it moving forward. And there will be times, I'm sure, that we will need a lot more help than 7 again. Can we do a better job at messaging what the commitment is to join? Can we try to figure out what the actual time spent we expect of each other? I don't know, with the messaging of just what it means to be an Arts Council member, not that it really isn't just the meetings, or hopefully it isn't just the meetings for people. So I do have concerns with dropping. I'm really concerned about that being a permanent thing. Is it really that much overhead for the city to support 2 extra of us, 9 versus 7? I don't really understand that, but okay, I guess. I would like us to be thinking forward to when we're 100% operational again, not in COVID restriction mode.
I think those are really valid points. And I just want to tack onto that, Amy, that Ryan mentioned that there was going to be a volunteer appreciation evening. I think that the city needs to make it awesome, like really, really cool, so that everyone that is looking in on it is like, how can I be at that event next time? I want to join the Arts Council. No, I think that your points are exactly my thoughts first when I was presented with the idea of dropping to 7. My initial thought is, well, let's not make any rash decisions here. These are not normal times. It would be permanent. But then I see the other side to it about streamlining the group and being able to move faster and come to more more agreement on things, especially when we don't have a quorum, that's concerning. So I can see both sides of it. I think there are pros and cons to either option. And Suzanne has something. And
Yeah, I guess I would say, I think I'd be in favor of keeping the larger group just because of the collaborative work that's required outside of the meetings. And I'm not sure that's true with the other boards and commissions. I don't see a big streamlining, one board being 7 and another being 9. I don't, you'd have to explain to me what the difference is, but also I think if we go to 7, and even if we don't go to 7, I think for me, getting a program in place to involve people in a pipeline system so that you are bringing people in to hang the gallery. You're bringing people in that have never done anything for the Arts Council. You're bringing them in on an event. You're bringing them in on Music in the Park and letting them get their feet wet and building a relationship with them. Then that person will say, oh, I loved doing Music in the Park. I want to be on the Arts Council because I want to see that event continue, or I want to build on that momentum, or maybe they worked on the art project that Carol's working on. And they say, God, that was so cool. I want to see more of those. I want to be on the Art Council. To me, that's more meaningful than a one-time appreciation event, which I'm not a big people person. I usually don't even go to them. So it doesn't motivate me personally. Maybe it motivates other people. What motivates me is when somebody grabs my hand and says, here, help me on Circus McGurkus, 30 years ago. And I ran a booth, and then pretty soon I was running Circus McGurkus, right? You get sucked in. So let's start sucking people in. That's my 2 bits.
Thanks, Suzanne. Eric?
Yeah, I was going to go back to Amy's point about, going back to some normalcy in what we were, and I remember when I first joined, I was actually on a waiting list to join. So, and that's when we had 11. So at that point, there were plenty of people interested. And maybe if we do have to go to 7, well, what if we then add more liaisons, or we had a youth member join? So we had 7 voting, but we had more support with regular attendees. Other cities have youth members, and I think that's a great way to interact with the youth community and get maybe some involvement for some of that. They have hours they have to get done for school, so hanging artwork or doing some things naturally would get maybe more support in that way.
That's an excellent point. And I was just thinking about the high school. There's some sort of volunteer program that they have. Could we sort of tap into that I think they get hours or credits for doing volunteer work. Could we be on their list of organizations that they could volunteer with and build those credits through the high school? I forget what it's called. But I have some friends whose kids have done it. But also the idea of the youth liaison was something that I wanted to bring up tonight also. I think that would build interest and build out relationships with organizations and keep us connected, keep the community connected. I was hoping to even propose on voting on adding a youth liaison, but I guess we can't do that tonight. So, but I think that's a great idea to think forward on how to build relationships. And can you tell us a little bit more about your experience with your previous Arts Council experience with a youth liaison?
When I was at the Kirkland, half the time I was on it, we didn't have one. So it wasn't the best experience. We were kind of in between. But I can speak on the person that we did have. And she was great. I mean, she attended every meeting. Now our meetings were during the day. So I think it was an excused absence for her also. So it was nice for her to get out of school to attend the Kirkland Arts Council meeting. So that might have been an incentive, but I mean, she participated. She brought new and fresh ideas. You know, it's a different world to be a high schooler interested in arts. I mean, they're dealing with things, learning things that's foreign to us. So that was a fresh perspective. And she participated and volunteered in some of the stuff we were doing. So whether it was like the fish frolic or the artist walks, she participated in the during the recession. We had a bunch of empty storefronts, and actually the city council had come to us about ideas on how to spruce up all these empty storefronts. So we did pop-up art studios, and they did paintings on the windows, and so high schoolers were doing that. So there's just some creative things that someone of that age can come and definitely add some value to the council for sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think there's a lot of opportunity with that. So definitely something to think about as we're moving into more planning. And I'm seeing a hand. Suzanne, did you?
Well, maybe it's off topic because it's more like board recruiting, but I was wondering if we need to reach out to all the arts organizations on the island and asking them if they would hand over an art liaison, even if they weren't part of our board, and might there be a way to integrate them in a couple times a year or integrate them in on a project. I was thinking about Carol telling me how she's very project oriented. You know, we'd love to have her on our board, but that's not necessarily what floats her boat, you know, serving the month-to-month board thing, but she loves to work on a project. So I'm just wondering, I'm wondering about the project part, and I'm wondering about just reaching out to other arts organizations and just say, would you like to be a liaison? We'd prefer that you be a board member, but would you like to be in our pool of people that work with us?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, we have two right now. We have the MyVol liaison, and we have the Fine Arts Advisory Committee liaison, who just has not been able to attend the meetings because of a conflict throughout a lot of the pandemic that she's had. But I would worry a little bit about adding a liaison from every arts organization.
They're not all going to do it, but I was even thinking like like even somebody from some major players in the community, like the JCC.
At the very least, we could start inviting people to join us, and you know, at every meeting, we reach out to a different organization and say, would you like to come and update us on what's going on? How can we better serve you? I mean, we should be doing that for sure. And then, you know, we can make decisions better if we're more connected with the community in that way. So I think that's a great idea. If it's not even an official liaison position, it's just,
an
hey,
update,
we heard from you.
update, or we want to, you know, again, build those relationships. Like that would be probably something that we need to work into our work plan, is reaching out and getting feedback back and forth and building relationships.
We used to have a lot of people attend our meetings and update us, you know, from Youth Theater Northwest to For Culture, and we just need to get back there, I think. Okay, I see Salim and Amy. I don't know who had their hand up first.
I think Amy
Pretty sure
did.
Amy did.
Go for it.
Well, if we want people to come to our museum, we have to have snacks. But that's not what was my question is actually for Carol. Carol, isn't there a MyVol Junior rep that leads the MyVol Junior folks? Just
no. Our relationship with that was, we had a young person in the community come to us and say he wanted a MyVol Junior program and he wanted to be in charge of that. And he wanted to partner with us through arts club at the school. And so we said yes. And he coordinated volunteers from the arts club and the high school for several years with us. We started working with him when he was a sophomore, and then he graduated. He was never replaced with a specific person. There was no one in the ongoing arts club at the high school that wanted to do that, wanted to be the Myval Junior liaison. However, we continue to do Myval Junior projects. Mostly, well, the people who are involved in junior projects are mostly Ann Ritze, Zainab Balev, and me to some extent. They do more of the outreach into the schools, and they work directly. You know, Ann was involved with the Arts Honor Society and getting that mural done. She's got a big interest in public art, particularly kids art, mostly kids, you know, community projects. And so we've continued to operate some version of a Myval Junior program, which is really just some money and some people who are interested in continuing to do our outreach into the high school.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So since the council is going to be discussing and voting on this, I wanted to see if I could get some clear direction from the council on what you guys want to do. So I've heard, you know, go to 7 and try and bolster the subcommittees. I've heard keep it where it is. Can we, I know we can't vote, but we could do thumbs up, thumbs down or something. So I can speak for the Arts Council at the council meeting.
I don't know if there's only like 3 or 4 of us at this meeting. Really 3 officially. I'm not really an Arts Council member, I guess. I don't know. But
Yes, you are. Yes, you
okay,
are.
I have had a little time to think about it, and like I said, I can see really the benefits to both sides. It's hard for me to say one or the other than, do we need to can we ruminate on it a little bit, move forward, because we don't have 9 members, we don't even have 7 members. Can we like take this as part of the plan, or
So
does
the
that
issue,
be decided now?
the issue is that when there's open positions, the city clerk has to recruit for them. And there's this constant recruitment process that we here don't see, that costs money, takes time, and has so far been fruitless. But she does it consistently because the code says that she must do it. Do we want to keep that going?
I
Are we
see. Well, that's extra information. What is that exactly that she's doing?
So she's posting to social media, she's posting to the city's communications, the city communications staff are writing posts talking about recruitment. We have once a year open recruitment, starts in May, finishes sometime in June. And that's when the council makes the appointments. And, you know, for the smaller boards and commissions, you know, planning commission, design commission, we get more applicants than we do have seats to fill. We have kind of the inverse problem with the Arts Council. The other part is the size of a quorum group gets bigger as the number of members go up. So we kind of have these 2 headwinds where we're spending money and taking time away from things that the city clerk could be doing, recruiting for positions that are not getting any applicants.
Is there an option of just putting a pause on the recruitment? If she's been doing all this recruitment effort and it's not yielding anything, can the council say, just pause, don't do it anymore? Let's see how we can get back up. I mean,
she's going to have to go out.
I'm doing recruiting myself, and I'm talking to somebody's face eye to eye, selling the Arts Council, and it's still not working. I mean, people are going to see an email and just be like, oh, well, I don't.
We don't even have 7 though, so she's going to still have to recruit, even if we go to 7. I mean, that's not stopping. It's going to stop quicker. It'll stop quicker if we get Erin a 3rd term too, because then if she wants it.
Like, I didn't know about this 3rd term thing until just tonight. So I don't know. I just like, I think there could be some real benefits to 7, to having a quicker decision-making process, to having a more cohesive group. I just worry about making that sort of decision in the state that we're in right now. That's the only hesitation I have. And I don't know if it's really something that that needs to be done. Can we try it for a little bit? And then if all of a sudden we're back to that point where we have 1 million people applying for the Arts Council and there's a wait list, can we build it into the decision that says a caveat, you know, in the future, if there's way more interest, we can think about moving it back to 9. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the city council is welcome to do what they want, and if we want to lobby to have it expanded, you can certainly do that. I don't think the city council is going to push back on that, but it's hard when the city clerk is spending time on it and not being able to get applicants, and we'll have to continue doing that until, well, in perpetuity, really.
Well, only other thing to add to that is, I mean, if you have 9, you can have 4 people miss a meeting and still have a quorum. Or if you have 7, you can only have 3 people miss a meeting. So,
Well, you could have a quorum with 4 people instead of, I mean, you're just saying it the opposite way of the problem we have tonight. We don't have a quorum because we have, I mean, wouldn't we have a quorum? We'd have Aaron we would have a quorum tonight if we had 7.
right.
Ryan, do you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, the Parks and Recreation Commission is in a similar situation to having a vacancy right now. When the Parks and Recreation Commission was established, I want to say we had 15 or 19 applicants. We had 1 for 2 positions this time. I could see a situation that concerns me between the Arts Council and the Parks and Recreation Commission where they're competing for members. So, you know, it does, there's a lot of seats there. And so I just wanted to bring that aspect up. I think this is the conversation for you guys to have, but I just wanted to share that there's sort of a challenge I see on the Parks and Rec side as well right now. And I would imagine this is probably a regional challenge at this point. People are stretched thin. I mean, that's just kind of the state we are in, and the Mercer Islanders, from my experience, are on lots of boards and lots of commissions and very active. And we're starting to see some start to want to pull back. And so making sure that we're right sized to accommodate and address our needs will be really critical as we move forward. And then, you know, obviously to Councilmember Neese's point, is the city council has the ability to do what they believe is best. And if we got to a situation in the future with a need for expansion and we can demonstrate that, and it's not being met by the subcommittee work and whatnot that we talked about earlier, you know, that's something myself as a staff member would be happy to bring forward. So just wanted to share those thoughts.
Yeah, and to that point also, Salim, council member, I don't think, like, I don't know if you're getting sort of the feedback you were hoping for. I think we just were presented with this and a little unsure what we think, but at the same time, you don't need us to say yes or no, right? So, I mean, the city is deciding what direction they're going to go in. So, I mean, my thoughts would be, if you want meaningful feedback from the members that are left here, maybe give us some time to think about it, because.
Well, that's fine. How about everybody that has an opinion on it, email me before Tuesday?
Yeah.
Just shoot me an email. Let me know what your which way you want to go.
I'm going to put mine in right now. I'm, for the reasons that were brought up by city council and city staff, I'm fine going down to 7. And I think it can be, I think there are other ways to address. I think we need to work on the pipeline problem. And, you know, whether it's COVID or just a change in demographics regionally, nationally, and people just don't want to volunteer anymore, I don't know. So, I mean, I think there's more than one way to skin a cat, and if it makes city operate faster, better, whatever, I'm for it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I think
Moving.
another thing to think about would be that if we had less members, but more outreach for subcommittee members or outside involvement, that people would get sort of an understanding and a taste of the Arts Council, and maybe hopefully that would spur interest in it. I think that could be developed a lot more, such as like a volunteer program for the high schoolers. I mean, there's a lot to do. I don't think losing 2 members at this point is going to make that big of a difference, but I think yeah, I just want to be mindful of people that are just learning about it right now and haven't.
That's fine. Well, I'll keep an eye on my inbox, and I appreciate the discussion. I know we're running low on time here.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think, Aaron, for the sake of time, we just want to move ahead quickly. We can skip public art update because I don't have anything major to share aside from what I already shared about the Luther Burbank Docks project and Paul coming out here in September. So if you want to go to the last couple of items, I think that would be useful.
Okay, I just have one last question on the vote that City Council, could City Council decide that there's going to be a youth liaison at their meeting? Could they vote a position like that into the Arts Council?
I mean, we'll have to look and follow up with you. I don't know the answer to that right now.
Okay. All right. So we're on to the meeting schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. So staff would like to revise the summer meeting schedule to enable the board to focus on Arts Reset Committee work, and staff would like to revise the meeting schedule to enable the board to focus on Reset Committee work. Did I just say that twice? Sorry. I think there's a little repeat. Our current meeting schedule for the summer is the following: July 14th, 2021, no regular August meeting per city manager's direction for all boards and commissions. I see. And then September 8th, 2021. So staff proposed the following for amending that schedule to the regular July meeting move to tentative to focus on committee work, which is probably a great idea. No regular August meeting, no change. And regular September, move that to September 15th because there's a holiday conflict of September 8th being the last day of Rosh Hashanah. So I thought that was a little bit confusing. If I was not clear in expressing that proposal, Sarah, please jump in and clarify. But are there any members that have questions or comments?
Yeah, so again, what we're kind of
can't even vote on this, so
we can't vote on it. So I would say the recommendation, it sounds like a couple of things came up tonight that may be useful to address in July, but I say keep July tentative. August is already technically canceled for all boards and commissions, and then September we need to move because of Rosh Hashanah. It doesn't have to be to the following week. We can identify a different date if September 15th doesn't work for everyone else. But, probably just a thumbs up for now is fine. And if we end up having the July meeting, we'll adjust from there. Amy, you have a question or hand up?
I was just trying to real quickly think back on the questions that Emily had for us and anything that the subcommittees might need guidance or voting on as we do this ramp up. So I was just trying to consider that, but I don't have an answer. I guess the July tentative would help with that if those things come up.
Okay. Well, we'll, Erin, Amy and I, you guys, we can discuss and just follow up with a full group on whether or not July is the most immediate one. But we're just trying to, from the staff perspective, we're trying to give a little more space to you guys, for you guys, both knowing that it's summer and you probably want to be outside instead of staring at your computer screen, but also, you know, to make headway on some of the reset stuff. So let's keep it there for now, but we can figure out best use of time as the weeks roll on.
I mean, I could just, as chair, supposedly, because I guess I'm still on the Arts Council, can't I say okay to the meeting schedule you're proposing? Or can I only call special meetings? I can't remember.
You can call special meetings.
Okay, but I can't cancel them. All right.
Okay.
Moving on to a reminder of volunteer hours. Staff is attempting to streamline the volunteer hour reporting process. So Sarah, can you remind us about the new process?
Yes, so basically now I'm recording everyone's hours for their regular meetings. If you're doing any work outside of regular meetings, prep work, committee work, please just let me know how many hours. I mean, there are some things, you know, obviously I've been at some of these committee meetings, so I can pencil it in if you don't report your volunteer hours to me, but just want to stress again that we really need your hours. And if there's a way to make time for it in your busy schedules, please do, so we can report them.
I think us forgetting to do it is pretty streamlined.
Hey, that's one thing that COVID didn't change.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, Carol. Oh, is this the thing that I missed hearing from because you dropped off the call?
Yeah, because my Zoom quit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back around to Emily and Ryan's summary of, and I wanted to say that what Emily re-described as what they're thinking is with respect to Bible was closer to what we were thinking. But if there are specific tasks that you think we might be able to provide, the sooner I know that, the better. And the shorter term they are, the more I'll be able to respond. We'll be able to respond to it as well. I mean, we're, again, a volunteer organization. Everything's approved on an ad hoc basis unless it's established as a regular program. For example, our holiday show or the junior art show, those are ongoing programs where we actively, you know, recruit people to run them every year. But we can't necessarily turn on a dime or go from 0 to 60 on a project. We have to find a volunteer who's interested in doing it. And a lot of what Emily mentioned, I know that I've got some people interested in doing it, but what that means when we actually sit down to talk to you guys about what you think you need is a different story. And it's pretty, I think it's pretty clear to everyone, we've had this conversation before, that a staff piece is really important. And then the only other thing that she mentioned was talking about sales, and the tech aspect of that just, you know, popped for me. And to the extent that there's a good technological solution, that's not what we do. I mean, we don't, and I'm not even sure I can find someone who will know how to use it. So while I think those are good solutions, that's another place where we really need to think about what MyVal's role can and should be, and where we have to offload it other places. And we're open, the board's open, the board needs to approve everything. We need to find volunteers to do it. We're very open to these conversations, or I wouldn't be here. But I don't have a lot of information about exactly what pieces you think we're going to be picking up, so to speak, and whether or not we can actually do that.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, I am fully on board with where you are. and everything, you know, it's a development process right now, I think, all the way around, and finding out what MyVal's interests may be and where that relationship can go as it revolves around the gallery. Awesome. There's obviously, you know, there's there's opportunities that aren't there, and we're kind of growing together at the same time. So I think it's an open line of communication that we'll continue to maintain and do what we can to carry this forward.
Are you in touch with other members through the Parks and Rec side of it, or just through this Arts Council communication?
Other members in regard
Of MyVal. I mean, are you, or, okay, because I don't feel like, I just don't feel like I have a very complete idea of what we might be called upon to do. And it's hard to communicate to my membership and find out what it is, you know, figure out where the interest lies so that I can respond to you in any kind of real time. So that's
exactly.
Just, I mean, I understand what you guys are working with, but I just thrown that out there. The more information I have, the more I can tell people and find out whether we actually can meet those needs. And as I say, some of the things that Emily mentioned, I know I have people who are interested in working on those kinds of projects, but I just don't feel like I have a complete list. So again, no pressure. I'm just, you know, we're not going to be able to jump on it tomorrow without, you know, we need to, you know, we're going to need to run it through people and figure it out.
Absolutely on the same page.
Great. Well, does anyone else have anything else before we sign off? Parting thoughts? We might not meet again until September. All right.
No, we'll all be in contact before then.
Okay.
Quit
Well,
trying to get out of Arts Council, Erin.
look forward to the summer. We're going to have great events and have a good night, everybody. I think that I need to officially call the time, right?
Yeah.
No. We're adjourning the meeting at 8:40.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your night.